So the easiest thing to do is to start with the bass line, build out the chords, and then work the melody into that. So let's start by doing that.
The rules of what chords sound well together is typically determined by something called the circle of fifths. Understanding the circle of fifths will give you a much more insight as to how to know which chords sound well together.
And now that we see that we have these other substitutions for those chords, we get to sub those other chords in and out as we like. So, for example, instead of playing 1, 4, 5, 1, let's substitute that final 1 chord for the relative minor. 1, 4, 5, 6. If we wanted to return home or get ready to return home, instead of going to the 5 chord, we choose the substitution for that, which is the B diminished, and we return home from that chord.
First, you need to choose which key you want your song to be in. For my example, I'm going to choose the key of C. Next, I'm going to take a look at my circle of fifths, and I'm going to look directly to the left and to the right of the key that I just chose. To the left of C, we have F, and to the right of C, we have G. Next, I'm going to find the relative minors of C, F, and G. The relative minor of C is A minor, the relative minor of F is D minor, and the relative minor of G is E minor. All 6 of these chords are going to sound great together. We have C, F, G, A minor, D minor, and E minor. C, F, G, A minor, D minor, E minor, F, G, C. Those all sounded pretty good together, right?
So by putting a 4 chord or a 5 chord at the end of my measure, it kind of makes you want to come back to repeat the chord progression on 1 again. So by making sure you're starting on 1 and ending on 4 or 5, you'll always be setting up this kind of infinite chord progression loop. And literally we can do anything in between those 2 chords. Let's try something different. I'm starting on C again, and this time I'll go to the 6th chord, which is A minor. I'll go to the 5 chord, and then maybe just stay on the 5 chord. All right, I said, I mean, there's no rule against doing a chord twice in a row, so let's do this again. I had 1, 6, and 5. Stay on 5. Again, it's 1, then the 6, and then the 5, and then maybe the 4.
So the first mistake I see people making is not choosing the right preset with which to write their melody. Now, I really like to use a piano, and I recommend that for a couple of reasons. One, you're not going to get distracted by these crazy, amazing sounding synths if you're using a piano, so you're going to be focusing on just making a really strong melody. The second reason is that when you're programming in a piano in MIDI, it reacts to the length of the MIDI note. So a longer note will be sustained, a short note will end quicker. Some synth patches aren't reactive to the length of the MIDI note, so that's the second reason. The third reason is it's such a common and popular sound to hear, so if you want to send your track to a singer to get her or him to sing that melody, having a simple piano sound makes it really easy for them to do that. Now we can focus just on creating an interesting rhythm before we actually change the pitch of each note in the melody. So the key here is to find a rhythm that works with any of the other elements that you already have. If you've got drums, if you've already got the bass and the chords, the rhythm of your melody will have to interplay with those different elements. So let's create our melody using the 1st, the 2nd, the 3rd, the 5th, and the 7th, and just stick to those notes and see if we can make something strong sounding. So that's the 7th, but an octave down. And that's the 5th, but an octave down. And then we've got the 2nd. Okay, so now let's listen to it.
One of the easiest things to do is to add notes in between the notes of the chord. These are often called passing notes. Here you can see I've made a scale by adding in a B and a D in between the notes of the A minor chord. So the A, C and E are all from the A minor, The B is a passing note from the A to the C, and the D is a passing note from the C to the E. One of the most effective ways of adding a bit of emotion into your melody line is with what's called an accented passing note. That's where the note that isn't part of the chord falls on the beat, which gives the phrase a little bit more motion or tension. On the third beat of each bar here, we have an accented passing note, which I think gives a real kick to the phrase.